Hello, everybody. I'm here with Shane Ford. It's quite an honor to do this spotlight with you this evening. Thanks so much for giving up your time tonight. Welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Honored to be here. I'm among good company from what I hear. So you've been doing a lot of work. That's
lots
awesome.
lots of talent is giving me their attention. I'm so in awe and in gratitude for all your time, and you hold your own weight in tattooing in Canada. Your work is incredible, and your painting is equally incredible. So again, I'm honored to do this interview with you, Shane.
Great. Well, yeah, I appreciate you saying that. That's huge. Yeah. So I don't know. You kind of get locked in your own little bubble, and it's nice to know people are kind of paying attention. But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
Oh, I've been watching your work for a while, and just you're really inspired and blown away by your ability, your illustrative capabilities, and again your painting abilities too are pretty awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I'm kind of from that school of drawing. Like just I don't not to be too opinionated and say that's going away, but there's definitely a separation from some tattooers who don't draw so much now and people who do. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm just trying to keep that going. That's all I know how to do. So might as well.
Yeah. Well, you can tell you got a good, strong work ethic. So let's go back to the beginning of your career and even back a little further. What's your earliest memory of seeing a tattoo?
Um, I'm sure there were ones before, but I think the earliest thing was my sister. I have a sister who's 4 years older than I am, and there was a guy that she was dating, and he said he wanted to get a tattoo, but he wanted me to draw it for him.
Okay.
And I remember just like overthinking this thing. And because I was maybe 13, 12. So I spent so much time on this drawing. And for 12-year-old me, I was like, this is it. And then he went and got the tattoo, and it was brutal. Like the guy, from my mind, 12 years old,
Yeah.
um, he didn't really do it justice, which, knowing now, I'm sure he did. But um, yeah, like, so I think that was what flipped on the thing of like, oh, I got to get on the other end of this. I got to,
Okay.
kind of take it all the way. And that's pretty much where it started. Like, I think that was it.
So
And then
you
there
started
was
having ideas that you wanted that you could do the job better and you wanted to get into tattooing at that point? That's
naively,
awesome.
I think. Like, I think I was, maybe a little bit too confident in saying that at the time. But, because once you actually start tattooing, you realize how hard it is. And then you're like, that guy was probably doing a good job. But I think that's what sparked maybe the curiosity at first was just like, yeah, how hard could it be? That kind of naive way of thinking. But yeah, that was it, I think. And then throughout high school, I would always keep like a little sketchbook with me.
Mhm.
I had a little black book, and I would always just draw in class. And there was a few other people that like would take that book to like tattoo shops and get stuff tattooed out of it.
Okay.
And I think that just kind of clicked. Like seeing it go from the drawing to somebody actually translating it into a tattoo, I was like, oh man, this is it. Because you could see that person's like joy too when they're like, I did it, I got the tattoo. Like, look how cool it is. That
Mhm.
just, yeah, I think that was the whole thing. So by 18, I was already in a shop trying to get an apprenticeship. Like, that just kind of ramped right up into it. So
So tell me
yeah,
about the first time you approached somebody about getting an apprenticeship.
I think it was so I grew up in Spruce Grove, which is a small town just outside of Edmonton. So I was kind of like this small town version. So there was a few tattoo shops out there. I think it was, I can't remember the artist's name, but it was a Ritualistics, or like it was attached to, because I know they had a few locations. And I
Mhm.
think one of them had expanded out there, and they had a few people that were just doing like just walk in, a lot of tribal. That was kind of the era of all that going on. So I remember just kind of going in, and like they kind of cool guyed me, like they big dogged me a little bit, and they're like,
Okay.
get out of here, like. which I think I didn't realize at the time, but that's sort of what you do. Like when people express that they're interested, you're like, you got to prove it to me, kind of thing, like
Okay.
that old mentality of things. So
Mhm.
I think I fell for it, and I was like, okay, they're not interested. So years, maybe like a year after that, um, I had a few friends that opened they were selling like weed pipes, like bongs and things like that.
Okay.
So they opened up a glass store in a mall, West Edmonton Mall, and there was a tattoo shop next to that. So I did a mural in the glass pipe store, and the owner of the tattoo shop actually approached me, and he said,
Okay.
"Hey, buddy, you get in here." Like it was kind of one of those moments, and I was like, "Oh, okay." It kind of weirdly worked out. Like it was sort of just a synchronicity moment of like, "Oh, okay, this
Mhm.
is how you get into it." So but yeah, I was pretty naive. I didn't know how you got into it or became a tattooer. It just kind of, I think I had already done the work of drawing a lot, but it did kind of fall in my lap in a sort of you know, in a bit of a weird scenario. So
And
yeah,
what was the name of that shop in the mall? I know it, but I just can't recall it.
it was called Dragon Effects.
Dragon
So
Effects. I thought
yeah,
I knew it was FX something. Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, there's mixed opinions about it and things like that, but it's one of the longest standing tattoo shops in the city. It has to be, and like, um, all due respect to the owners and stuff like that, they gave me a start and they run a good show. But I think that I had a pretty good idea that I wanted to do like larger scale custom tattooing. And I think just with their business model there, it's better to do 20 tiny tattoos in a day.
Okay.
That's kind of how things run. So I think my time there kind of came to an end just because I wanted to go more towards people who were doing custom stuff. So
Now, what year would it
um,
have been when you got landed that opportunity, Shane?
2005, like the summer of 2005, I think.
Okay. And how
Yeah,
old would you have been at that point? Were you
18.
18, Steve? Okay.
Well, 17 turning 18. It was kind of I think, yeah. My birthday's in March, so it would have been, yeah, maybe just before that summer.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
And so the apprenticeship, how did that go? Did they give you like a traditional one, or they just kind of throw you to the wolves? How did that work out?
It was sort of like with the way that they ran it at that shop, it was kind of a communal thing. Like you would, there was a guy there who knew machines. So if you want to learn machines, go talk to this guy. And if he wanted to help you, cool. If he didn't want to help you, screw you.
Yeah.
So it was very much kind of like foraging for information from a few different people. But as far as like everything that you needed to know, like sterilization, that kind of thing, was very rigid, and I learned that very quick. And that was the era of like scrubbing metal tubes and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
you know, as far as being thrown to the wolves there, I think I learned all that pretty quick. But I don't know. I think I wanted to have like more of a technical understanding of how, at the time, like a lot of the tattooers I was looking up to was like Craig Driscoll was one of the guys who had come through and actually worked at Dragon Effects, and then a lot of his influence was kind of left over that people were trying to do more illustrative stuff.
Okay.
So I think at the time my thinking was like, well, how does he run his machines and what needles does he use? And nobody could really offer you that information.
Hmm.
So I think I got like a base level understanding from there, but a lot of it I had to kind of learn later as far as maybe how people are doing the kind of stuff that I wanted to do, you know?
Yeah. So
Um,
and when I think about what you just said there, like you were invited in, so you earned your way in through your skills, but you sort of had to earn your way in with everybody there. Like
oh,
each tattoo artist.
and being like a 18-year-old guy who could draw, people don't want to tell you shit because you're now competition, right?
You're
There's
gonna
a
put
lot of
them in the
ego there.
business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're probably either telling you the wrong information or just withholding some stuff because now, you're going to make them look bad if you get to a certain level of proficiency, right? So that was a little bit of the vibe there, was everybody was kind of gunning for themselves, and maybe some of the information back when there was secrets, people were definitely
Yeah.
keeping them. So that was a struggle, I think, to try and find people who would just kind of help you for the betterment of you, and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a little bit of a dog eat dog situation, but by the end of that situation, I was already drawing tattoos for everybody else in the shop.
Okay.
And they didn't really want me to move up and start doing my own work because I wouldn't have time to draw for maybe other people. So, that's kind of the writing on the wall for me to kind of move on. So,
okay.
yeah.
And I've heard a few times about communal apprenticeships where everybody sort of nurtures the apprentice, but it either goes really good or not so good, because it depends how cooperative and willing the other participants are, right?
100%. Yeah, I don't know that I got assigned to anyone particularly, but I've heard of a few people taking credit for my apprenticeship after the fact. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
I think I visited that shop once. I'll take a little credit too.
Yeah, appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, it did kind of, in retrospect, it kind of lights a fire under you, because you sort of realize, you're going to have to figure this out on your own, and hopefully not make too many mistakes, or, obviously my biggest concern was, I don't want to harm people. So I want to make sure that I have a base level understanding of, how to do a clean tattoo and not, cause people any danger as far as cross-contamination and all that stuff. So I think I left that first shop with a pretty solid understanding of at least that. And then I could do tribal, that was it. But yeah, I guess from there, sorry, go ahead.
So how long did you end up staying at Dragon Effects?
I think that was probably about a year and a half to.
Okay, that's a decent amount of time.
Yeah. I had a good relationship with the owner. I have a lot of respect for the guy. It was honestly just the interpersonal stuff with some of the other people in the shop that led me to leave there, but nothing bad to say about him.
What was his name?
Ali.
Ali, and his last name?
Ali Damon, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, he's ran that shop up until now, up until today, and it was going before, and he's given a lot of people in the city a start to become tattooers. There was a time when almost everybody in Edmonton had been at that shop at one point. You got to give him credit for that,
Yeah. Is that probably either him or Bear Lamont?
Yeah.
So then, after you left that shop, what was your next move? What did you do from there?
I went to Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just pretty much up and left. It was a bit of a. I had a friend who had moved out there, and he had an apartment, and he would call me every other day and say, "Man, you got to get out here." I was like a young skater kid, so he told me that he could skateboard and snowboard in the same day, and that was pretty much all I needed to hear. I was like, I'll get out there as fast as I can, and then I think at the time I was kind of I was tattooing sort of entry level stuff and making a little bit of money at Dragon. So I saved up every penny I had and just kind of went for it. But that was a bit of a leap of faith. And I had reached out to a few tattoo shops just over the internet. And one that got back to me was, it was just two dudes, and they were just in a room. And one of them I believe had just come from Dutchman.
Okay.
So so I just went to work with them, and it was a private studio that it kind of suited my needs at the time. They had a clientele who was open to drawing things, and they would let me go skateboard. So
okay.
Yeah.
What were their names?
One guy's name is Nick Hart. I believe he lives in Montreal now. He wasn't a tattooer, but he was a fan of it and just wanted to run a shop, and he did a really good job of it. The other guy's name was Jeremy Glenn. I don't know if he's still tattooing. I kind of lost touch with him, but I believe he had worked with Dutchman for a period of time.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was kind of a short-lived sort of thing. But
Mhm.
I think I would have been maybe 19, 20 at the time. So I think I was still pretty uneducated as far as what at that time I didn't really have anybody telling me to do it the right way. I think I
Mhm.
still lacked a lot of guidance and somebody to be like, hey, go to a proper shop and do everything properly.
Mhm.
That was also around the time I started discovering other tattooers. Like I think that's when people like Steve came on my radar. Like being in Vancouver, and I would like stop people on the street that had a Steve Moore sleeve and be like,
Yeah,
what is this?
I
Like,
know, right?
and that's when I kind of had to shake my head a little bit and be like, okay, there's another gear here or something. Like, how's
Mhm.
he doing that? And I'm just doing what I'm doing. Um, so yeah, around that time is kind of when Steve kind of came on my radar, James, Tex, like those guys were in that area between BC and Alberta. Those are the two guys who their work really stood out to me. And I guess then you have to kind of deal with the like, okay, there's a mountaintop here and we're at the bottom of it. So um yeah, coming back from Alberta, I think is when I kind of committed to like, okay, I want to learn as much as I possibly can. And I got to go to people who know what they're doing. So
And so then were you starting to get tattooed by some of these people that you were looking up to, or how did you, or did you
um
get in under their nose, hang out with them?
I think I did end up getting tattooed by James. He's done my whole back, like neck to knees. But
Mhm.
that came much later. Like I think we just started having conversations. I think I realized when I came back from Vancouver to Edmonton, that's sort of when I realized conventions are important.
Okay.
Um, I had never done any before, and it's almost just like a learning experience, just to go, even if you're not tattooing. I would probably walk around and talk to people more than I would actually tattoo.
Mhm.
But that's sort of when I started doing those. And I think I met James in Calgary, probably 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And I think I met Steve the following year. And Steve came to my booth. So I had done this. I started doing like full renderings of back pieces on like vellum paper with
Okay.
pencil crayon, and they would take forever. Like they would take me like a week to finish it, and then I had one framed in my booth, and I see Steve walking by, and he like looks at it and just
Yeah.
beelines for it, and he's like, "Did you do that?" And I was like, "Hey."
Yeah.
It's one of those moments you're like, yeah, because he's on a pedestal to me at that point, and he
Mhm.
was super humble about it, and he gave me a compliment, and that was it. That was another one of those moments where you're like, man,
Mhm.
we're doing something.
Well, that'd be a pinnacle moment in anybody's career if you
Yeah,
catch Steve's attention, and yeah.
yeah, and he was very gracious and was like, oh, that's cool, but you know, I think I remember saying, he said something to the effect of like, you're gonna break your hands like doing that much pencil work or something. But
Yeah.
um, like the carpal tunnel and stuff like that. He's like, you better worry about that. But I was probably
Mhm.
20, so I'm like,
Sure,
who
yeah.
cares?
Well,
You
his
know?
walls are littered with full rendered pencil crayon
Yeah,
sketches of
yeah,
all his tattoos.
yeah. Maybe he was speaking from experience, but
I'm
hopefully
sure.
not.
I'm sure he was. Well,
Yeah,
I dropped by Steve's shop in 2008, so in around that time, and even back then, his shop, like his walls, were just littered with fully rendered
yeah,
studies of all the work that he was doing. So,
yeah, yeah. His ability to just sort of map things is like it's phenomenal to me. Yeah,
mhm.
I've never been to a studio, but I think I would just like to sit in there and, yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the interview I did with him on my Instagram or YouTube
I
channel?
haven't, I don't think I've seen that one yet. No, I saw
Okay.
maybe some clips of one that you did with Kurt and
Okay.
Rob, I think, but didn't make it to
Yeah.
the Steve one yet.
Yeah.
but
The YouTube channel has them all kind of organized in
okay,
the channel if you check that out.
nice.
So
Yeah, I'll have to watch that one.
yeah, it was maybe not as great for tattooing since Steve and I got rambling on about spirituality and
Oh no,
the creative
nice.
process. And
Yeah.
I had taught a workshop last winter in the Bahamas on creativity at an ashram. So Steve
Wow.
and I we got nattering about that, and that's
Wow.
there was a lot of information. Like the interview was like a couple hours long with Steve, but I sort of cherry picked that part of the conversation.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that about Steve is that he doesn't, I mean, if we reference where we're at in my timeline, he was the first tattooer that I'd met who didn't fit any of the models that I'd met up until then of what a
Mhm.
tattooer is. He's very like he does yoga and he kind of is
Mhm.
like very much tapped into something that
Yeah.
clearly not everybody is. And yeah, I'll have to check that out because I would like to hear his perception of where that comes from. Or like, yeah,
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 it was
I think that'd be
fascinating, and
fascinating.
it
Yeah,
was the really interesting part is that he sort of echoed a lot of the things that I had taught in this workshop about
oh, wow.
harnessing creativity, and not that I'm no master artist, but I'm a very creative person and have been all my life. It's
Yeah,
so, but yeah,
yeah. There is. I've dabbled in that of the curiosity of even ideas and where they come from and why you feel like you have to. I don't know. I'm a very obsessive person, so if I have an idea, I don't like eat or drink until I've drawn it, or at least a version of it.
okay,
It's
yeah.
it just takes a hold of you, and you have to sort of get something down. I
Mhm.
don't know where that comes from or why I am that way, but it's an interesting thing to like get other people's ideas on where they think that comes from. But
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I'm the same way. I get locked in and I just can't let
yeah,
things go.
yeah, it's a time warp, and then you're
Yeah.
just kind of like, hey, what day is it, kind of thing. But yeah,
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think some of it too is just that some people have this ability to really focus and put in the work, and other people don't. I just get locked in on my projects, and
yeah,
I'm good with delayed rewards. And if you're doing artistic endeavors, you certainly have to be willing to put that time in and not get the reward for a long period, right?
yeah. It's I mean, it's sort of like a platitude or whatever, but it doesn't seem like work until you're like, oh, I haven't slept. Like
Yeah.
that's sort of when it sort of catches up to you. But I enjoy it. Like
Yeah.
it's chasing an idea or something.
Mhm.
Um, I think there's versions of when it does become work. Sometimes if you're doing like a commission and there's a lot of stipulations around it, then you're kind of appeasing someone who's paid you to do some artwork, which is
Mhm.
great. Um, and it's nice to be able to support yourself doing it. But if for me, if I'm doing something that's just kind of for myself or just drawing just for the sake of drawing, I'll lose hours.
Mhm.
I enjoy it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's wonderful.
yeah.
And so we've gone from about 2005 to 2009, 2010 and around there. How had your career changed, from that to then to where you are at that shop in Edmonton or back in Edmonton? Was,
Um,
was your
I think at
drawing
that
starting to take a different direction at that point, or?
I think at that point, I mean, humbly, I will say, I think I was getting a lot more attention for my drawing than I was for my tattooing.
Mhm.
Um, because if I can remember correctly, people are like, man, when you figure out that tattooing thing, that's when this will, like there was just a kind of a budding sense of like going somewhere with it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that was maybe just indicative of me not being able to sit down with somebody who can tattoo
Hmm.
and them just sort of sharing with me what they do or what I'm doing wrong or all that kind of stuff. Um, that was also sort of still the era of like coil machines. So I think at that time I was starting to be able to get access to like Aaron Kane's machines and things like that.
Okay.
I can notice like an immense shift in when I got my hands on like good machines
Mhm.
versus before. Like that to me was like that was a turning point for sure.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it was just kind of using the right stuff and doing the right thing. But yeah, as far as where my career was at that point, it's very much still a work in progress. I didn't have like an arrival point of like, ah, you're doing it. It was very much trudging through mud for the
Mhm.
first while. But I think a lot of that is just a testament to being self-taught for the most part. Um, but yeah, just kind of earnestly trying to get as good as I could.
Mhm. I remember the first time I bought an Aaron Kane liner, and the first time I used that thing, I just melted because it was just like you barely touched the skin, and these things was flying in lines like butter. It was incredible liner.
Yeah, yeah. I remember even feeling like frustration of like, where the fuck is this band?
Yeah,
You know, because you're like, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, again, I'm not even sure if they're around or not, but Pulse, there was a company called Pulse, and they
Okay.
would make machines, but they were kind of like CNC'd out of brass and stuff like that, and they would come like missing washers and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And I had tried to like suffer and put those together, and I was reading like machine gun magazines and stuff, and
Okay.
like, but just brutal.
Yeah.
Just the worst
Well,
machines, and like,
I was fortunate. The person that helped me in tattooing, he was a very good machine builder in Canada, and
yeah,
so I got
that's
right out of the gates. I had really good machines.
yeah. Yeah, that again, retrospect, I wish I would have you know, known at the time, where to go or who to ask. But, you know,
That's
I'm
right.
kind of I'm kind of a mutt in the industry. The way that I came into it was yeah,
Sure.
not traditional, but yeah, trying to make up for it now.
Yeah. Well, I was coming home from Montreal. I was at the convention last weekend, and I stopped at the service station, and there was a big quote on the wall, and it said, "A journey without struggles or difficulties invariably won't lead you anywhere."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I just thought, wow, that's so true. When you toil for it and you work hard, or you do the wrong thing for a long time, and then you finally get going on the right thing, it's just like,
Well, even as an analogy for those Aaron Kane machines, like if that was the first machine that I picked up, I'd be like, oh, it's a tattoo machine.
yeah,
But if you use a bunch of garbage first,
yeah,
and then you pick that up, you're like, this is the thing. This
yeah,
is what I need to have in my hand. So yeah.
yeah. And that Aaron K machine, you're not going to fucking drop that one. You're not
No,
just going to
yeah.
throw it in a drawer, right? Like,
I would take mine home just
yeah,
so that like I would, yeah, just so I didn't want to leave it at the shop. It was too precious. And then
yeah,
I started building a little bit more of a collection. But yeah. And then from there, I think I discovered like Seth Safari machines. I like
mhm,
those a lot. Those are great.
yeah,
That kind of thing. But I think that was the sort of the beginning of me trying to get on the right path of, essentially teaching myself or
mhm,
just to get around other people who I could sort of absorb things from.
yeah,
Yeah. Around that time would have been when I kind of started to get that notion a little bit more.
yeah. You know, it's
Yeah.
funny, like you mentioned, you'd take them home with you. Bill Baker told me that early in his career, he always kept his machines in his pockets. When he Everywhere he went, his
Yeah.
tattoo machines were in his front pockets, one in each pocket. Because
That's awesome.
I know, right? Because he thought,
Yeah.
if this thing goes out of tune, if somebody touches it when I'm not around, I will never be able to tattoo like I can tattoo. It's like it was his
Yeah.
kryptonite.
Yeah. I remember, yeah, just that feeling of like, just stay in tune, like, yeah. and you just kind of sit there and you rub the A bar. It doesn't do anything, but you're just like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's in there. What as long as I can remember, I never had to tune an Aaron Kane machine. They just stayed in that sweet spot.
Hmm.
And there was a range where you could turn it up and down and it still stayed smooth. Like, yeah, some of the best machines I've ever used.
Yeah, my liner from the person who mentored me, I ran that for I think 18 years before I ever touched it. And
Yeah,
when we took it apart, the armature bar had pocketed the coils, so like there was indentations
yeah.
in there. It had run so long.
Wow.
Yeah, like
That's
that's
mojo though. There's some mojo in that thing.
yeah, I kept that armature bar.
Yeah.
So so
That's
you
awesome.
finally get some good machines. You're getting into better and better shops, it sounds like. What
Yeah.
what was your next move after that first place that you landed in Edmonton?
So I think around that time, I was starting to do a lot more conventions. I did one, I think the same year that I met James, or maybe a few years after that, Tex down in Calgary. Um, I had a conversation with a guy named Mitch that owns a Gastown tattoo or formerly Gastown, now I believe it's called Pacific Rose. I think he changed the name. Um, and he owns that tattoo shop. And I considered it for a while. And then he said, if you ever make it back up to Vancouver, let me know. And I went back up to Vancouver.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I grew up in Edmonton, and I think I was just getting bored of the scenery, and that seemed like a good opportunity. So I went and worked at Gastown. It was like a busy shop. It was very like traditional heavy,
Hmm.
um, traditional in the sense of artwork and stuff. They were doing very sort of like sailory type stuff. Very like kind of like Doc Forbes, Sailor Jerry kind of inspired type of stuff.
Okay.
And then walk-in basis type stuff. So I went to work there. And I was very much trying to still do like illustrative type stuff. But I kind of started getting pulled in that traditional direction.
Okay.
Um, just because a lot of that's what people kind of wanted and they were coming in. But so I wanted to learn how to draw that style because I just thought that would be a good skill to have. That is essentially like the fundamentals of what I was trying to do.
Hmm.
So I, but so I think I kind of tried to go back and just build it up from more of a traditional kind of thing. And there were two guys at the shop that helped me out a lot with it. One guy's name is Matt Houston. He's still tattooing out in Vancouver. Super nice guy, great tattooer, and Frank. Um, Two guys that they worked there, and they were like they had such a cool traditional style that I would bring drawings to them and be like, hey, this is fucked up, right? And they'd be like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fucked up. Like, do this, do this, do this, take out half the lines. Like, that was a very good I think just teaching moment or opportunity to work with those guys, and they helped me a
Hmm.
lot. Because I think like in my brain, I always want to over render things. I always want to draw and like add stuff and dynamic this, and
Yeah.
I had to kind of let that go or try and get away from that because I was
Hmm.
starting to see at that point I'm getting sort of a vantage point on tattoos that I've done that are now maybe 4 or 5 years old, and none of that stuff is there anyway.
Yeah.
So you can do it in a drawing and it's cool, but it doesn't necessarily last, or it's pointless to put in all those 3 lines if they're not going to be there, that kind of thing. So um that I think was another turning point in just being able to draw for tattooing. And I
Hmm.
think it was being around like such the opposite of what I wanted to do,
Yeah.
but kind of realized there was a lot of fundamentals I was missing out on. um and I think, yeah, that helped me out a lot, just to say more with less as far as tattoos and stuff like that, because I was just overdrawing everything.
Hmm.
um yeah, so shout out to those guys.
Yeah, I can see how that would be such a valuable time in your career to go take it back to the very basics.
Yeah.
Obviously you could draw like a motherfucker, but to take it back
Yeah.
and get that simplicity and then eventually find a balance and all that, right? I can see how that would be so beneficial for you.
Yeah, that was luck because I just I don't know, like the way that they would explain something, I would have a drawing that would maybe looked good on paper, but they were able to offer the experience of like, hey, here's why you don't need all this.
Hmm.
And I realized I was kind of using a lot of that as a crutch, maybe to make an impressive drawing and show it to somebody and then them say, wow, cool. But it's a little bit disingenuous if half those lines are going to be loaded.